On today's show, we're going to talk about, hey, issues that people have in a relationship. Who points out those issues? Do you see them yourself? Or is your spouse or significant other pointing those out for you? Let's talk about it.
Thank you for tuning in. We are Tristin and Michael, and you are listening to Fuse Transparent Conversations for Marriage, Family, and Relationships. We invite you to join us as we discuss topics that are thought about but not talked about. So tell your friends and family to check us out. As always, check us out on any of our social media handles at Fuse Marriages. All right.
Love it, love it, love it, love it. I mean, you're looking very nice today.
Yeah, you're looking dashing. I like that shirt.
Yeah, no, I'm liking everything about you. So you like the shirt, I like everything.
You got one up me.
I got a one up. It was just really was on my mind, to be honest with you.
I'll take it.
Yeah.
You know, thank you.
Take the smile, I take the dress, I take the eyes, I take everything.
Okay. Cut this camera off. Show over. Anyway, but we have something that's going to be kind of an interesting and dynamic conversation today. And I want you to kind of introduce the subtitle. The subtitle is Mirror, Mirror.
Oh, no, absolutely. It's Mirror, Mirror. Thank you for that. Just like, you and I, we've been having this conversation really over probably like the last few years, right? It's the idea of the concept we're going to talk about is Mirror, Mirror, right? Really where the reflection of between a man and a woman in their relationship, they reflect, you're able to see something that the person can't see. That's the whole idea, right? And the whole thing, like I started thinking about like, okay, when I get dressed, and I don't do this anymore. I didn't say that. I do it still. I put on my clothes. I put on my shirt. I get ready to leave the house. I often don't look in the mirror. I don't necessarily go through the last check. No judge me, y'all. Please don't judge me. But I don't.
He not lying.
I don't look in the mirror. I can see with my eyes. So I got pants, I got a shirt, you know.
Check.
I don't do that. I don't go do that final check or even in between checks of like looking in the mirror. So one time I did that though. I was, going to this event, putting my pants on, put my shirt on, put my jacket on, get out there and I get to a mirror that's at the event and I thought I had on matching suit, jacket, and pants and I did not. And I said, if I had just looked at the mirror,
well,
before I left, that wouldn't have happened. Now, that still didn't stop me from changing from like doing that, but it's always back in my mind like, okay, like do I have the same colors on?
It was
now?
a start.
It was a start. The process of changing starts somewhere.
Hey,
and that did start then though, but like I'm still evolving in that. But the idea of mirror, mirror, you and I, like I said, we've been talking about it in relationships, in a marriage, whatever have you, is that you're my reflection of what actually may be going on. And I'm your reflection of what actually may be going on with you. And we're going to dig into that a little bit, just kind of figure out what that looks like. Why is it, what's wrong?
I love the idea of this, like kind of the relationship where you're able to really see yourself in your partner and hear about yourself and all of that good stuff.
So let me ask you a question. Is that okay? Is that okay with you? I ask you a question?
Yeah, go.
So the question is, we kind of wrote these down to make sure we want to get you nice and clear and concise, and you can expand on it however you see fit, right? So what areas in life are difficult for you or for us, let's say, for maybe as women or maybe as men, to see ourselves, right? What areas in life are difficult for us to see ourselves?
What areas in life? For both men and women.
Yeah, maybe you can focus on women because it's very hard to kind of think about what for a man.
I think there's a lot. I think in this show in particular, we talk a lot about reflection, self-reflection. And I think that one of those, oh man, I don't even know where to start. I think it's hard for us to see ourselves when there's something, did I do your card backwards, upside down?
No, you're fine.
Your card is upside, your second one. Oh, I'm sorry. But thinking about, see, maybe that's an area of reflection. Like I think sometimes out loud.
Yeah.
So I think that one of the areas of self-reflection is seeing some of the challenges in relationship. I think that's a big one. Like seeing yourself in the challenge. So let me rephrase. Yeah. So if there's an argument or a disagreement and somebody says something about you, for you to be able to say, is it true? Like, let me take that. Right. Is it possible that this could be something that's true? So maybe some of those negative aspects of ourselves.
So give me one example of a negative aspect, maybe. Like, I mean, this could be
We're not going deep enough. Okay.
Yeah, just a little deeper, just so people can get some practical.
Are you talking about me in particular, or
people?
You?
If you comfortable with sharing about you, what
is an area that it's hard for me to see myself in?
Yeah.
I think one of the things that I go back and forth with, even though I know that it's at least on its surface pretty true, is that I can be pushy or aggressive. Okay. Because I don't really see myself as that. So when people have said it to me, the first time was you, really. I was like, what? I'm a nice person. Like, I'm good. I have good motives. Like, I'm not trying to cause harm. And for you to be like, you kind of harsh, like how you say stuff. Now I know it to be true. So
why?
I laugh at it.
You heard it so many times, or you just kind of
because I did hear it. I heard it a lot. I heard it a lot from you, but I think really kind of thinking through that, like, is it possible that he's right? Is it possible that my intention, what I'm trying to communicate, isn't being received as well because of how I'm saying it?
Yeah.
I think that was, because to me, I'm like, let's get to the chase. This is the thing. Let's make it happen. Let's make it do what it do. We don't need all the fluff.
Right.
And we've talked about it before in the show where you have said you didn't need the fluff. But I think that that actually how I talk might be a challenge. So I have to consistently consider, how am I saying this thing? Right. How might it be being heard?
Right.
And that helps me.
I can say one for me, at least, and I agree with you on that. I think maybe.
Oh, you agree?
No, just like how you talk. I think that's honest. Be like that's a pretty big one, right?
Okay.
Or maybe how you portray or say your words, even if they're true, they can be maybe kind of a little. They can cut a little bit.
Edgy.
They can get a little edgy. They can get a little. Okay. I know it's true, but you have to say it like that.
Yeah.
But one for me, I did not know from a mirror standpoint that I could be the type of person that wants to get my way. I never thought of I'm not trying to get my way. I'm like, in my heart of hearts, I'm like you. I'm not trying. I'm open to whatever. But in reality, when I went back and reflected off of some of the things that you had told me about myself, like, you always get your way. I'm like, no, I don't. I'm like, no, I don't. I do not get my way. And you're like, yes, you do. Here are the examples of when. Right? Well, why you didn't say something? Well, but still, I was still getting my way, regardless of how it transpired, how it played out. I was getting my way, even if it was like in a okay, I'm gonna have my way. I'm thinking that's what I was thinking about. When somebody says have their way, they're being this forceful kind of, putting their fist down. Yeah, you know what? We're gonna do what I say. If you don't do what I say, I'm gonna be mad. Like, it wasn't that for me, but I was still getting my way, even how I was navigating that conversation. So that was a real big one for me.
And what did you do once you had kind of the epiphany or the revelation, like, hey, I am wrong in this area? What do you do with that?
Well, I mean, so like the first one, I had to go through and that's just one of them. It's many more, but like some of it all the same, right? Of how I had to come to really hearing that, right? I had to say, you know what? Is she telling this to me to control me? Or to help me? Is she telling me this to get her way? Or is it something that's going to be better for us as a unit? And I had to and my first thoughts were like, hey, you know what? She just trying to get her way.
She tripping.
She trying to get away. Wasn't even tripping.
What? She
trying to get her way. You know what? She just don't want to, step up. She just said something if she didn't want to do that. She don't want to speak up. No mentality. You push it off in that arena versus saying, hold on, am I doing something to manipulate the situation or having this being viewed this way? And it wasn't, I had to look at it and say, hey, you know what? Maybe she's doing it out of love. Maybe. If it's a maybe, then I got to at least consider what you're saying in a different light. That she's not saying out of anger. She's not saying out of frustration. Maybe that may be part of it. You may hear it that way, but it may have got that way after it happened so many times. And I had to say, okay, is that maybe she's doing it out of love, right? She loves me. She wants to see the better part of me. That's what I had to, at least try to get to the bottom of. Some people do, they try to want you to do stuff because they just want to get their way.
manipulate.
They manipulate, yeah. They're not doing it out of love. They don't really care, like, you know, if it's better you or not, but it's better for them, so they want it better. Which, to me, I don't agree with that philosophy. If it's because it's better for you, I mean, it's better for both. Anyway, but, like, but I had to kind of go through the pathway of understanding that I feel that way. And if I do feel that way, is it accurate? Yeah. But I think I had to come to the conclusion that, man, she loves me. She wants the best for us.
I think that the idea of mirroring and really allowing your partner to articulate to you some things that are about you that you could improve, and the things that are great about you, and the things that are hurtful to them because of how you are. I think that those are all really things that take a lot of like openness and vulnerability and willingness to be a good partner. Okay. To be able to receive what the person that you're with is saying in a really honest way. Right. Like, to, instead of it becoming like a point of contention or attack, and for the partner that is sharing it, for it not to be a weapon. Right. For it not to be like, well, you know what, you you're this and this and this, and you, like, I think the manner in which we communicate it also has to be in a way that people can receive. Like, even telling me, yo, Tristin, like, you say things a certain way, and I've talked about this a number of times on the show. I just wasn't, it's always been that way. So part of it is me, you're just going to be this way, but the other part is like, okay, if this is how you are, how can you make yourself, how can you communicate in a way that other people still feel loved, even though it might be direct? Right. And that was one of the things that I had to be willing to say, to hear from you, and to say, okay, it's not effective communication, because you can talk and not communicate. Like, you can do damage in just talking. Like, I think my grandmother used to say, like, oh, she just like to hear herself talk. You know, like, some people they just talk to talk, and they're not getting anywhere. Nothing's being resolved. There's no growth. You just using words, putting a whole lot of words together. And so I think that communication is a skill. It's a gift. It's something that you work on. And so being able to really hear, okay, this is not working. What do I need to do so that there can be a better relationship and there can be better communication? And some of that is being able to see in the mirror of your spouse.
No, 100% agree. And I think the whole idea of, like, the concept of mirror is, like, we can't see ourselves completely. And, like, I think you got to come to the realization, like, I think I see myself in a way, and it may not be portraying out to the world like that, right? I see myself as this kind of upstanding, honorable, never get angry person, and in reality, like, I'm being serious, like, I mean, people see themselves like that, and, like, they're not trying to, like, fool you. That's how they see themselves. So when somebody tells them different, they get defensive, or they do get angry, and they do get frustrated, and it's like no, that's the part I'm talking about right there. That part you show right there. That's what I've been trying to tell. But it's all reality, because I think we rarely allow people, it's a trust thing, to say, hey, take a look at me, whatever feedback you're saying, I'm gonna try to take it in, even if it kind of hurts a little bit or I don't quite understand it, that you're just reflecting what you're seeing. And you're trying to show me, hey, you know what, you may have to change in this area a little bit. And we got to take, I don't know, I think I had to come to understanding, like, hey, you know what, that you're my mirror.
How much of that is ego? Not necessarily for you, but just in general, male or female, where it's hard to receive because, like, ain't nothing wrong with me, it's wrong with you. You know, how much of that is like a shot to that kind of how I've esteemed myself?
I think it's very little or to none. Ego. It plays out like that, because it's like, why are they so, like, defiant and, like, over here arguing me down about how I'm experiencing them? Because, like, if you think about it, you got two eyes right here. Like, literally, I can't see all of my body without a mirror or about you telling what's behind my back or on my side or bottom of my feet. I can't see it.
That's good.
So, like, in reality, like, no, like, your back is there. Like, no, it's not. You can't even see it. So you're arguing with a person, like, they're saying, like, that it's not, and they're like, no, it feels fine. Like, yeah, like, I mean, see, nothing's coming off. And, like, literally, like, they can't see it. So it's not an ego thing at all. It looks like because of how the response is given, but it's not ego.
Most of the time, but yeah.
Most of the time. You got people out there
good,
like you
though. That's
proud,
good. Like, you really can't see all of your body without a mirror. That is a whole word.
Yeah.
You cannot see all of your body without a mirror. And I think some of this really comes to, and obviously we want to hear what your thoughts are about this, but some of this really does come to making sure that you pick a partner that you trust and that you know really, like, has you, so that you're not wondering what their motives are. Like, why would you say that? Why are you, you just coming at me? And yeah, some of that happens through growth, but really understanding this person really is for me. Right. So let me consider what they're saying, because it's hard to consider that somebody's saying something when you're not sure, are they going to be around, or do they really care about me? Like, all of that, like this, because then you're wondering, like, wait, is this narcissism? Is this somebody being evil, or is this conniving, or is this manipulation that you referenced earlier? So I think there's a lot of pieces for that. Was that the hardest thing that in our relationship that you've kind of had to grapple with, is that I'm trying to get my way, or if it's not, what was maybe one of the harder things that I've asked you or told you about yourself?
That was probably one of the hardest. Tell me about myself about that. That was one to say, okay, being able to see that I'm trying to get my way. That the second, or at least a close, maybe second, could be first, was that we're a blended family, right? Is really how you saw me, how I like maybe favored the bonus kids, my older girls, in a way that was like, I'm not trying to bend to them, this, that, and the other, and in spite of this, that, and the other, and I'm like, it was hard for me to kind of like, well, hold on, take a step back. If I'm doing something that's maybe giving that off, evidently there's probably something true to it. Or that you're kind of like you're jealous, which you weren't that. You didn't love them, which you definitely loved them 10 times over, right? So I'm like, I took all that. I'm like, well, okay, well, I need to make sure to keep that in check, so that we're trying to build a cohesive family. Because the idea was, right, hey, Michael, you're dividing your old family and this family. We need to have one family. And I'm like, no, I'm not doing that. I would like swear up and down that was not the case. And in my heart, I wasn't, but I couldn't see the totality of how everything was playing out, and you were able to kind of show that to me.
Yeah. I think that's a big one for any blended families out there. And this is a conversation that we're going to talk about at a later date, but the idea of blending families, there's a lot to see there. There's a lot to be aware of in those kinds of cases. And I think that when we were blending, like, some people have like seamless blends where like you're like, how did they do that? Like they're all hanging out and friends and everything.
I ain't met them yet, but maybe they out there, y'all, putting the chat or the,
I hear about them and I'm like, oh, that's so great. Yeah. Our story, however, was not quite that, but you brought that up, and there was a lot to see in that, because there's so many heart checks that we have to do. So I'm gonna tell a little bit of background for that. So I think that there's a propensity, correct me if I'm wrong, I think that there's a propensity, particularly when you're blended and one of the children or both or however many, there's distance, then you can start to behave towards one and create further distance between some of the others. So if you have one, let's say, that lives in Arizona and you live in Arizona, well, then if you have one that lives in Maine, then the one, when they come, you obviously want to make them feel special, but not to the demise of the one that lives in the same state or city that you are. So I started to see some of those things. And then when we had more kids, then there was like, oh, okay, I see them all the time, not intentionally. Right. So then there starts to create these divides. And I think that being able to have really frequent and open conversations about blending and about family and about like balance and relationships and favor, still being able to have, of course, a little more time with the one that you don't see, because you would do that whether you were blended or not. Like, hey, I don't get to see you often. Let's go eat, away from everybody. Let's talk. But ensuring that there's still the undergirding. Right. But in talking about that, this hopefully is not a wheels off the wagon like you said might be. But I think that when relationships are really hard and when you have a lot of additional elements to consider. Because it's one thing, you get married, you're 22 years old, and that's fantastic if you can do that. But there's a lot less that has potentially happened than when you're getting married and you're 40 or when you're getting 35. Like, there's a lot of life things that you have to come together. If you do have other children, if you have very vocal in-laws, if there are multiple people engaged in the relationship, if they're
some, like, woo.
So when you have all of these, it's even more important that you trust the person that's mirroring you, because you have to have some really serious in-depth conversations that, I mean, you don't want to say you can't mess up, but it's almost like you got to get them right. Like, you don't have multiple opportunities to drop the ball. So ensuring, like, hey, we got to have a conversation about being blended, or we have to have conversations about health, or hey, our parents are aging, or our children are growing, or let's talk about the finances. Like, really being able to say, you know what, you're better at balancing. I'm better at saving. You're better at balancing. Let's talk about how we're going to really structure finances. And for you to be able to hear, she is better at saving, or he really is better at making sure all the bills, because some things don't necessarily have to be like full-fledged conversation. It might just be a decision. Like, okay, you're going to handle this. I'm going to handle this. And being okay with, and we talked about this in a previous show, being okay with your partner doing those, like, being competent in that, being able to handle it, being able to take care of it. Because I want you to be able to take care of some stuff. I do think, like, hey, I'm going to take care of this today, or I'm going to do this, or hey, this came in, we need to pay this, or we need to take them here, or hey, this popped up on the family calendar. But really being able to be the mirror for your partner, especially when you have multiple moving pieces.
No, absolutely. I think that the word we use, sometimes I heard you use trust, right? You almost have to trust your significant other to be able to say, okay, yes, you know what? I trust them to be able to say something in my life that maybe I may not be aware of or see. Because a lot of us couples, and I'm just put ours in the same category, right? Of saying, you trust your spouse? Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And like, yeah, that's to some degree.
Right.
But do you trust them enough for them to say something to you that maybe, is not positive, and you're able to receive it? Sometimes we all go, well, I don't know about that. Right? So I think we have to be able to trust our spouse. I think another word means maybe permission. That'd be a question I ask for you. Like if you have to give kind of an idea of why we should give permission, we're going to use permission and trust, interchangeably. Okay. Why is it important to give permission to our spouse to be our mirror?
Wow, that's good. I think that you have to give permission, and I don't mind the word there, because they need to know that they have free access. Like, it's okay for you to talk to me about some things that nobody else would. Because your spouse is supposed to be your best friend, supposed to be your road dog, is supposed to be the one. And for them to know, I can go into this room and you're going to let me in. You're not going to slam my finger in the door. You're not going to go off on me when I start sharing with you about you. Right. It's not an opportunity to argue or have an attack. You're allowing me to come into a space so that I can show you. And even in that, there's love and there's safety. If somebody just walks into my house without my permission, they might be met with some challenges coming into my house. But if you ring the doorbell and I open up the door, that's different. That's good. It's different for me to say, come on into my house, welcome, and you just to walk in. Like, no, you weren't welcome in this room. So giving them permission to walk on and come on into this space. Right. Come to know me in a deeper way. Really. Yeah, that's good. Even the areas that I have to be vulnerable and I'm not comfortable with. Know those places, and we can work on fixing up all of this together. And the goal is that I too have permission to come into your spaces. And so there's a reciprocity there that's there, and there's a safety, because now we've got each other. I got your back. I can see you and you can see me. And then there's a depth of growth that happens there, and a deeper kind of love when you can really, really let somebody see those really vulnerable, kind of scary places that you know you might not be all the way right, but you don't feel like you have to fix it up for them.
Right.
And then they're going to handle you with care, even if it's something that needs to be like, okay, hey, Tristin, I see this. Let's work on this. Or you know what? This is something I see. And it might be hard to hear, but you know that the person that's telling you loves you. What do you think? Last words for that?
I think, we put that in amazing. I think, the whole idea of mirror, right, is that what I see is like, your role is to bring the best out of me, right? To whether that's in correcting, say, hey, Michael, you're being a certain way, or to push me to new heights. People can look at it both ways, right? You may see something in me that I may be doing more of, right? That's in a positive light, or less of something that's in a negative light. Either side could be done, but your ultimate goal is how I look at you. Hopefully we all looking at each other is like, hey, you know what? I'm allowing my spouse or giving my spouse permission or trusting my spouse enough to say, hey, you know what? You can tell me about me because I trust you. I give permission to because I know you're trying to bring the best out of me.
I like you. I think you're great. Yeah, I think that was really well said. We're really trying to bring the best out of each other. Yep, and that's why it's important that your spouse, your partner, the one that you've decided to do life with, is your mirror. So thank you. And thank you for joining us today. We hope that you get a lot out of this, that this starts really important conversations for you. Make sure that you do comment, that you do subscribe, and that you do connect with us on Facebook and Instagram. All of our handles are at Fused Marriages. And of course, check out our website for more content and resources, fusedmarriages.com. Let's talk about it. Like a Tristin.